we're going to move up now to Lebanon, where things have been developing as well. This is, again, I'm going to bring you this Institute for the Study of War map and kind of mock it, because the blue that you see, the dark blue, that's Israel. That's inside Israel. They make it look like some kind of troop movements. It's not. It's the Israeli border. The light blue is where Israeli troops have been at some point. And if you read the fine print down at the bottom there, it says, assesses forces have operated or launched attacks. It doesn't mean that they're there or hold that territory. On the contrary, it means in almost every case that they withdraw back down to the border. They're not attempting to move deep into Lebanon, despite the fact that they announced 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞 on November 12th, just before we went on air last week, that the Israelis are expanding their operations in Lebanon. They're moving on to the second stage. And he announced that in the evening, late at night on the 12th. On the morning of November 13th, after announcing this, that they're going to move to the edge of the next village, to the first village. They call it the second line of defense because the border is the first line. So they call it second line villages. When you're hearing second line villages, it doesn't mean that they've conquered the first line of villages and are moving into the second. It means the border counts as one. And so now they're maybe going to go into the village. But this is what happened: 10 a.m. the morning after, so like a few hours later, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., a fierce gunfight between Hezbollah and Golani troops. The IDF said 6 Israeli soldiers were killed during the fighting. They all served in the Golani's 51st Battalion. The clash took place 6 kilometers into Lebanon, where they withdrew after taking those casualties. The inevitable Hezbollah said the inevitable outcome of the second phase will be more losses and more failure. So a 3-hour gunfight met Halevi's bragging about the expansion of the operation, and since then we haven't seen it. They might have moved an additional kilometer. Based on IDF reports, an additional kilometer into Lebanon. But what they have done is on November 14th, they're carrying out more than 100 airstrikes a day in Lebanon. On November 14th, 113 airstrikes. Targeting main targets were the civil defense, paramedics, the Civil Defense Center in Baalbek, killed 20 personnel, paramedics, and then there was 12 martyrs in the civil defense crew in Duris. So attacking paramedics, like I showed you last week, and of course, like Israel has bragged about doing all over Gaza, killing paramedics and killing them with double taps. You bomb the place, and then you wait till the rescue workers come to save people's lives, and then you bomb it again. So this map that you're looking at. This is the western sector over to the eastern sector. There's one more map I'll show you just to see that it's this consistent. Just barely perceptible advances. Again, the dark blue is inside Israel. The light blue is where they have moved in Lebanon. You can see where the villages are. They're not in the villages. They're on the outskirts of the villages. The way the map reads, if you put a dot instead of the name, the village isn't there. That's only the name only goes into the blue because it's written. If you just did a dot, you would see that they are not in the villages. They may go into the villages, but again, we haven't seen that yet. And Hezbollah keeps saying we're waiting for it. So we'll see how it goes. Israel also looks like they're trying to get an off ramp in some sort of ceasefire negotiations that Nora pointed out. Classic Israeli ceasefire negotiations where they get to continue firing. So only one side has to cease firing, and Israel gets to carry on firing. The most remarkable ceasefire the English language allows. So let's look at number 20 here. This is just further proof, because Hezbollah has these weapons. We've been watching them for the whole year. This is the Almas. This is a top attack anti-tank guided missile that was reverse engineered after it was captured in Bint Jbeil during the 2006 war. You can see it's here, these excavators that are opening the hole in the wall. They're on the wall. They're on the border. They're not in the villages. They're not doing what they're doing in Jabalia, where they're knocking down houses. And the Almas has a camera on board the missile. If Israel was moving forward in numbers, they would be doing it in their armored vehicles, and we would be seeing their armored vehicles blow up. Their armored vehicles are blowing up. They blew up 4 tanks since the announcement of the second phase. So they are hitting tanks, but 4 tanks. We just saw 12 tanks in that one intersection in Jabalia. So they're not. They don't appear interested in expanding this war. They're not. Right at this stage, they're not capable of making this fight, which is the point I've been making for months. But that may change, and we have to be aware of it because it may change. But as we see right now, we're just seeing airstrikes. We're seeing dropping buildings as their goal. Yeah, look at 21. This is an interesting operation. This is a qualitative operation that if Abu Hadi, if Nasrallah was still alive, he would be telling us about this operation. This is the Kuria. This is the campus. This is the defense campus in downtown Tel Aviv, surrounded by human shields. And these towers are all what host the main installations of the defense ministry in these towers. This is Rabin Camp. This is the base named after Yitzhak Rabin. But they're going to show us all these towers, this Kinneret towers for the general staff, the IDF general staff, the Amman, the military intelligence is in here, the Navy, the Army, the ground forces, all have these towers. That's why it's called the campus, because it's this series of towers and buildings. And some of them are mixed use. Some of them they have civilian applications inside the same tower. And there's a proposal to expand the campus that would have more mixed use so that they can embed more civilians into their military infrastructure in a rather shocking way. The Kuria is shocking. So Hezbollah hits this, and I think what Nasrallah would have said is he would have said they have a surprise, and he would have shown us this remarkable information that's being shared with us, which is that every building is being marked. They're talking about the Ministry of Defense, the General Staff building here. They're showing the General Staff Defense Ministry, the ministry they call it the Ministry of War. And then they're going to show us the helipad, and then they're going to show us each of the offices, the 13th floor office for the Office of Chief of Intelligence. They're going to show us the Office of the Minister of Defense. They're going to show us the Chief of Staff's office, the Deputy Chiefs of Staff's office, and the Secretary of the Supreme Command. And on the upper floor, they're going to show us the Commander of the Ground Forces and the Department of Weapons Development. And so this is Hezbollah's response to the bombing of the Dahia. Israel bombed the Dahia 40 times last week and targeting the Dahia. And so this was Hezbollah's response, was to target the Kiria. If we go to the next one, you'll see the weapons that they use to do that. Again, they give us these maps to show you where we're looking at. And there it is again. And we saw it in quite a drawing set of drawings. I'm not sure what the proper term for those drawings are, but you see them launch the drones. They launch the drones to distract the air defense systems and to get people saying there's drones, and get fighter jets up in the air to try to shoot down these drones. And then they're going to fire their heavy missiles, their Qadr-2 missiles, which is a comparable missile to a Mark 84 that the Maskov Maersk people talked about that are being shipped. Again, underground missile bases. Israel says they've knocked out 80% of Hezbollah's rockets. Again, just a completely absurd statement. That sounds to me like they're trying to get out of this war by saying that. That's for public consumption at home. It's not a military assessment. It's an absurd assessment. So they're hitting them here with Qadr-2 missiles. They are 250 kilometer range and 400 kilogram warhead, which is comparable to the 2,000-pound Mark 84. Now this one's interesting. This is another first. This is Hezbollah firing precision-guided missiles, not deep into Israel, but into Lebanon, into the troops mustering. And this is where they are. You can see where they were in that previous shot. They're out in the they're in the trees. They're not in the villages. And these are Nasser 1 guided missiles that are being fired on the troops mustering inside Lebanon. And yesterday was the first day where there was more operations inside Lebanon than inside Palestine, inside Israel, um, since um, since the battle began 2 months ago. So you can see them there. That's where they're mustering, and then they're being hit by these truck launched precision guided missiles. That the missiles entered service on October 14th. That was the first time we saw them. But this is the first time that we're seeing them being used inside Lebanon on troops inside Lebanon, something that they will continue to do the longer this war goes on. This is how Hezbollah responds to stage 2. We can do 24 now. These are Fadi 6s. These are the first time we've seen these. These are also precision guided. This is the Tal Nof base. This is the oldest Air Force base in Israel, oldest Israeli Air Force base. The Ein Sharmer is an RAF base, the UK, Britain at the time, I guess, air base that's older, but this is the oldest Israeli one. 140 kilometers from the border, which includes F-16s and drones, and specializes in electronic warfare. And then you see the size of these Fadi 6s that are going to be launched. A Fadi 6 is a 140 kilo warhead with a 225 kilometer range. Again, fired from underground launchers that can't be knocked out after the launch. And targeting the air bases. So Hezbollah, while Israel massacres civilians, Hezbollah is targeting all of the strategic air bases from Tel Aviv north, particularly focusing on the Haifa area. In the next ones, we're going to see this is in Jaffa, this base, and then Hezbollah shows us these are people fleeing the sirens. Hezbollah shows us settler cameras, shows us Israeli cameras, something that Qassam doesn't do, probably because of the nature of the war is a bit different, and there's no Israelis except soldiers, and we already have soldiers in the Qassam video. So yeah, so 24B is drone up against Haifa naval base again. So they're hitting these key bases that are part of the battle. And here we're seeing drone footage overnight. You can see in the bottom right corner, they actually have the map. You can follow it going over all of these key sites. And the key sites are the Haifa Technical Base, the Haifa Naval Base, Stella Maris Base, Tir Carmel Base, Nesher Base. Haifa Technical Base is an Air Force base that includes training for Air Force technicians that are attacking Lebanon. The Haifa Naval Base, along with the Navy, hosts missile boats and submarines that have been attacking Lebanon. Stella Maris is a strategic monitoring and maritime surveillance base, 35 kilometers from the border. Tirat Carmel Base, a housing and logistics hub, transportation battalion, and northern region. So they're hitting their logistics. And the Nesher Base is the gas station for the Israeli army, 40 kilometers from the border. Southeast of Haifa. So qualitative operations. The Nasser 1 is the first missiles that they use. Those are 100 kilogram, 100 kilometer warhead, and they are precision guided. The Nasser is the Fadi with a precision guided kit. And Nasrallah talked about the precision guided project that Hezbollah had been carrying out, and now we're seeing it. It's to turn the other so-called dumb rockets into smart rockets that can hit their target within a 5-meter radius. So we have before us now, we are watching the escalation of this war as Israel upped its numbers. In this, again, you can see the flyover drone footage that we saw from back in the summer when Hezbollah flew drones over Israel and showed us the Hudhud drones that were flown over all over. They were flown over the Golan. They were flown all over Haifa. They were flown over Ramat David Air Base. We saw those. I showed you those. You remember back in the summer. Qualitative operations. Hezbollah has carried out 200 operations in phase two that began on November 12th. They're firing 100 rockets a day. They've carried out 200 operations. They've carried out 1,350 operations in the 2 months since the pager operation, averaging 22 a day, showing no sign of command and control being knocked out. We're seeing these operations take place and the ground battles take place without disruption. But 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐿, the chief of staff, said that Hezbollah's chain of command has collapsed. So we're going to just hold on to that quote as we move forward in this war, because it's clearly not true. Number 25 is a PSYOP that Hezbollah put out called the Vortex of Hell. And it shows the bases that I just read to you, the naval bases, the Haifa Naval Base, the Air Technical College, the Nesher Fuel Base, Jet Fuel Base, and the naval base. And they're saying that they're making it a vortex of hell. They quote the mayor down there in the small type. The mayor saying, Hezbollah will not spare us, and the city is their primary target. So another Hezbollah PSYOP and then there's one more PSYOP for you here, the last one. And this is mocking the Israeli military censor, because what we're seeing there is a tank sinking in the sands of South Lebanon. But it says a significant, what they say, it's a difficult security event in the north of the country. Yedio Aeronaut, our sons are burning inside Merkava tanks, and a whole group of the Golani Brigade is sinking in the quicksands of South Lebanon. Just mocking the military censor that doesn't allow any of this information. All of this that we're seeing is not allowed to be shown. It's considered one of the 7 main tenets of the Israeli military intelligence censor. And journalists in Israel have to sign, in order to get a press card, have to sign that they'll follow those rules or they'll go to jail. And any American or international news organization that wants to report through their bureaus will do that as well, and the Associated Press and the New York Times do that. So they're subject to the military censor. So Hezbollah is showing us new weapons, new tactics for the second phase of this war, still in the battle in every way that you would imagine them to be, while still playing it careful. They're not trying to pull Israel into an all-out war, but they're escalating when Israel escalates, and that's something that Nasrallah said to us all many times. When Israel escalates, we'll be ready, and that's what we're seeing here. So that is the resistance report for this week from Gaza and Lebanon.